Hey guys, I'm the Dragonsbeard and I'm back with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today we're going to be taking a look at another brand new Clan Boss team, and this one is coming courtesy of Face Melter. So you probably have never seen this one before, since it's a brand new tune. He just came up with it earlier this week. So Face Melter, he's one of the mods over in the Deadwood Jedi Discord, and the dude is like a wizard in the calculator at finding these tunes. It's crazy. So, if you go through that New Tunes Around the World channel, you're going to see that like half of the teams have his credit to him because he comes up with them things left and right. So what's going on with this team is it's the budget version of the Mythbuster. And the regular Mythbuster team, it's crazy. It's Pavo's account. He's got 3 Void Legendaries in there. Deadwood showcased it to do like 170 plus million damage. It's ridiculous. But that team had Cardiel, it had Turvold, and it had Lydia in it. And not everybody's sitting on 3 Void Legendaries. So what we're doing here is we're taking the same roles that are part of that team. We're lowering their speeds a little bit, and then we're bringing in other easily accessible champions that you probably got laying around in order to do those same jobs. We got some pretty impressive results. It's not 170 million damage, but it's still going to be able to one key. And these are champions that everybody or a lot of people should have. So I'm going to pull up the regular Mythbuster team. We're going to go through the team, kind of see what roles are going into this, and then we're going to look at who we're using to fill those roles. Okay, so I've got the regular Mythbuster up on the screen here. And this was Pavo's account on Deadwood Jedi's channel, so I'll link this in the description if you want to take a look at it first. Let's go through each of the champions. We're going to talk about what they do and why it makes this team so good. So we've got first off Cardiel, who's bringing us a speed aura. It's helping reduce the speeds for the rest of the team. He's also coming in with the 3-turn block debuffs, so that's going to be what keeps us affinity friendly and also helps us take care of the stun. And then Cardiel is also bringing ally attack, which is what helps improve the damage of the team so much. So Demytha, she's doing block damage in order to keep the team alive, and she's also doing the buff extension, which is going to make all the other stuff that we have going on, like increased speed, stay up for the entirety of the fight. So Seeker is coming in here with increased attack, and he's also doing the turn meter fill, which is effectively on a 2-turn cooldown because of his extra turn. So he's going to help drop the speeds down even further. We've got Lydia, who's doing the increased speed debuff, and after it gets extended, that's going to be up the entire time. She's also bringing the decreased defense debuff and the weaken debuff, so it's going to help improve the damage. And then Turvold's coming in here, and he's just putting up huge numbers of damage. So that's kind of what makes the regular Mythbuster able to do such crazy damage. And these champions, a lot of them are running at a 3-to-1 ratio. So all those extra turns are going to be where all the extra damage comes from. Okay, so what I've got up on the screen here is the budget version of the Mythbuster. So we're going to look at each of the champions, kind of see what they have to offer, and look at which components of that first team that we were able to still deliver with the budget champions. So first up's our leader. It's Khatun. So everybody should have her as a 30-day login reward. So she's got a 19% speed aura, so she's got the lead aura covered. She's got a turn meter fill, small, like kind of like Deacon would. She's got increased speed as a part of that same ability, so she's doing a little bit of what Lydia would have done. So, kind of a 3-part role that she's filling. So Seeker and Demytha are the same as the first team. So you've got turn meter fill covered, you've got increased attack covered, you've got block debuff or block damage covered, and you've got the buff extension covered. So they're doing the same roles what they did the first time around. So for the 3-turn block debuffs, instead of Cardiel doing that job, we've got Tatura who's coming in to do that. So I haven't had a chance to use him yet in any of the teams. I kind of wanted him to be like a part of my third Hydra team, but I never got around to building him yet. So this is the first time I'll be using him, and his animations are absolutely nuts. I really love seeing him go to work in this team. So he's got that 3-turn cooldown covered, so he's going to keep us affinity neutral. And then we've got Ninja coming in as our damage dealer. So like as long as you played during that 3-month window where he was featured, like you're going to have Ninja. So you don't have to worry about Turvold or anything like that. So we've got a lot of those same components that are coming in. He's doing that decreased defense as well. So what's missing? So we don't have weaken in the team. So that's going to be, a pretty significant damage loss, but, we're still able to do a 1 key on most of the affinities, even without the weaken being in there. So we've also don't have an ally attack because that's something that Cardiel was doing and Tatura does not have. But everything else is covered just like the first time around. So the 3-to-1 ratio, speeds, everything like that. We'll go in the calculator here later and kind of show you that in depth. But like, it's a very capable team without having a lot of investment needed into getting these champions. So I'm going to hop back over, show you the builds for each of the team, and then we'll run it through, and then I'll let you see it in action. So, first champion up is going to be Khatun. And before I show you her build, I do have to go over the ground rules that I set as far as making this a truly budget team. So, I only had 7 million silver when I started doing this. I knew I needed to build 5 champions, and I knew I wanted to try other damage dealers out. So, I was trying to make that 7 million silver stretch as far as I could. So, I didn't take gear off of anybody. I didn't want to pay that penalty. I didn't want to have to pay to put it back on those champions when I was done. So in order to do that, I went into Hellhade's optimizer, and I took the optimizer and I set it to do unequipped artifacts only, and I also set it to only look at plus 12 or higher pieces. So I wanted it to find items that I already had rolled up for the most part. So um, what it did was find some crazy builds that like I never would have found on my own just going through artifacts and stuff, because it's mostly just finding some pieces that have high speed rolls to reach where I needed them to, and a lot of it doesn't even make sense because they're all mixed sets and what have. But it does the job. It gets the speeds needed, and then it puts enough damage out that we're going to be able to still do what we need to. So for her, the other ground rule that I had was that I wasn't going to touch a single mastery scroll or change anything around because I wasn't wasting those gems. So for her, I've never put masteries on her, so I wasn't going to run her through Minnow or spend the gems or anything like that to do it. She's just how she was. The part of it that's not budget is that all these champions I'm showing you are already fully booked. I had them booked that way, and they're all like worthy champions of books, so I don't really think that's wasteful. But I wasn't going to be able to undo that, so we kind of kept it the way it was because it's important for the team to function. So let's take a look at this. So she is completely mixed sets. She is at 255 speed. She's not even crit cap, 92%, and she doesn't have very much crit damage on her at all, 161. So 3100 attack, a little bit more, and she does not need accuracy. All right, so next up is Seeker. So the optimizer was at least able to find a crit damage set out of what I had laying around. So he has a little bit better offensive stats than what she has because of his speed being so much lower. So he's at 193 speed. He has some wiggle room in this. He's 43, almost 4,400 attack. He's only 1% away from being crit capped, and he's got 218 crit damage. So a lot better of a build overall in Seeker. But again, when we're talking about almost 60 speed lower, then it's a lot easier to put those offensive stats in there. He does not need accuracy. Just disregard that 177 you see there. It's just what I had on him already. So for his masteries, again, he's not even getting anything at all from this defense tree. None of these masteries do anything. You're not taking damage, so retribution can't go off. It's not like the Mytharis team, so if I gave him deterrence, it wouldn't do anything in this team anyway. But again, it's the masteries I already had. So if it's not broken, don't fix it. I wasn't just going to spend the resources to give him some support tree or whatever, because I didn't need to. So for the offense, here's the important part. You go down to War Master. If I was building it from scratch, I would take out the Grim Resolve Mastery, and I would give him the Heart of Glory Mastery instead, because the team's going to be at full health the entire time. All right, so next champion is Demytha. So we've got her as the fastest champion in the team. She's at 295 speed, which is super quick. So she's got to run at that 3-to-1 ratio to cycle back to the block damage. And in order to do that, she's got to be speedy. So at those speeds, I wasn't able to put much offensive gear into her at all. So she's only at 2,600 attack. She is crit capped, but she's got low crit damage at 134. So all she's pretty much doing is that block damage and the extension. She's got that one offensive ability, so I did give her War Master so that she was able to proc that at least on the one hit she has per turn. But again, I didn't get her Heart of Glory, and I just went down to War Master. For the support tree, again, this is from another build. It's not the masteries that I would choose if I was building it from scratch, because pretty much the only thing that she's getting any benefit from here in this team is Lure of Steel, in order to give her just a tiny, tiny little bit of extra speed from that speed set, and I think it's like 2 speed that she gets from that. So again, I was leaving it as is just because that was part of the theme of the video. So if you wanted to tweak it around a little bit, then feel free to do so, as long as you're within the speed ranges, which I'll show you in the calculator. All right, so next up is Tatura Rimehide. So he was just a fresh Christmas fusion that we just had. So he is an amazing looking champion. Look at that. I think he looks kind of stupid from the front, but like once you see him actually going in the game and he has a little bit of a glow going to his wings and stuff, he looks amazing. I don't understand why he's a high elf though. It's kind of weird. The optimizer was able to find a crit damage set for him, and he is a defense-based champion, so it's damage based on defense. So we need to look at that for him. So he is 5,500 almost defense, crit capped, and 202 crit damage. So pretty decent build. I didn't have very much defense damage gear equipped on my champion, so it was able to find quite a bit from him. Plus, he's at 182 speed, so you can get him into defense percent boots with speeds that low. He does have accuracy needed for his decreased accuracy ability on his A1, but I don't care whether that lands. In fact, I would prefer if it didn't land, just to have an extra debuff slot. But that is what he is doing. His masteries are fresh because, again, he was a fresh build, so I had a chance to put him the way I wanted them. So he is down to War Master. He's got that Heart of Glory, which I wanted on some of the other team members. And then, for accuracy and the other content I was using, I went ahead and did this kind of a build, picked up Lore of Steel, and then Sniper for if I was using him against Balmal or something like that. So that is Tatura Rimehide. Okay, so our last champion is Ninja, and he's our damage dealer. I'm really kicking myself for not using him earlier than what I have. I had most of my teams established already when he got added to the game, and I didn't really have a reason to build him. Shadow Confaction Crypts was still far away at that time and what have, so he just kind of sat there. I booked him. I had no gear on him for months, but he is amazing. I've seen him do crazy stuff in Doom Tower. He's amazing in Clan Boss. He's a really great champion. I think he's going to wreck Faction Crypts, depending on what bosses we see are going to be a part of that. So for him, I was able to put a lot of attack onto him because he's got a pretty good base attack. 5,200. He's 256 speed. He does need to be pretty fast. He's 3-to-1 ratio in this team again, so he's cycling through those abilities very quickly. He's crit capped and he's at 173 crit damage. I could put more crit damage on him, but I wanted to make sure his accuracy was high enough. He's the only person doing decreased defense in this team. So, in the last team where I had him together with Deacon, I was okay if he had a resist here or there. But in this team, he needs to be the one who's putting that up and keeping it with a high uptime. His A1 chance is not super great. I think, it's 60% when booked. So, we need it to be up there often. So for him, I made sure with his masteries that I did not give him defense tree because I didn't want him getting extra turn meter. We've got him going down to War Master, and then he's also got that Heart of Glory mastery. And then for him, just to get extra accuracy, I went ahead and did all these. And then I picked up Lore of Steel and Sniper for 65% chance on the A1. Plus, with Master Hexer, that'll help his HP burnout, and it'll also help the decreased defense. All right, guys, this is a full auto team, but you got to make sure that the custom AI is set up properly. And I made a mistake the first time and wasted a key. So I want to show you how the AI should be set in order to prevent that from happening. So for Khatun, she's pretty simple. We need her to use the A2 on cooldown, and her A3 does less damage than the A1, so we just want to turn it off. So for Seeker, he's also pretty simple. We need a 1-turn delay on his A2, so we're just going to open with the A1. For Demytha, we want her to do A1, A2, A3 in rotation. So we're going to set the A1 as the opener, and then first priority on the A2, second priority on the A3. So Tatura is the one I messed up. I didn't set any of his stuff, and then he was still using this A3, and he tries to use this instead of the A2, and it made me take a speed debuff and a stun. So in order to keep that from happening, turn off the A3. You don't need it for this team. And then for the A1 to make him use that on cooldown, for the A2 to make him use that on cooldown, just set it as first priority. And then for Ninja, the only thing you need to do is you need him to prioritize his A2, just like in the calculator. So we're going to set A2 as first priority and then A3 as second priority. Okay, so I'm about to kick this run off here. This is pre-recorded, but the reason why I recorded it ahead of time is I wanted to show one specific thing that can happen at the beginning of the fight and to kind of explain what's going on here. So let me get out of the way. Behind my head there was Demytha, and what we're looking for is AoE 2, the first time the boss does it. The entirety of the team is protected with block debuffs, except for her. She's going to take a turn and it's going to fall off. And what I wanted to do here is run it enough times to where I got to see her resist the debuff, like she does right here in this recording. But then I also had to rerun it to make sure that even if she took the speed debuff, that she was able to stay in sync. And I ran it both ways with Ninja, and I ran it both ways with other damage dealers, and found out that it does not matter whether she takes that one tick of the speed debuff or not. It does stay in tune. So she's only got it for, I think, 3 ticks before she comes around to her extension. And since her extension has a debuff reduction on it, she actually cleanses herself. So I think that's the reason why it works. But if you see the debuff pop up just only on that first AoE, or the first AoE 2, I should say, it is okay. There's nothing wrong with the tune, because after that, every other time it cycles around, the entire team will be protected the whole way through. So I did just want to call attention to that, just because it might worry you if you see it happen. This is a slow fight. We've got Ninja, who needs to ramp up his damage here. So to start out, we're only at about 1 million damage per turn. But once we get to like the 10th or 12th turn, you're going to see everybody running at full power, and then the damage numbers are really going to crank up. So I will speed this up, toss on some music, and I will meet you at the end. All right, guys, here we are. We are at 78.1 million damage. So that is a 1 key secured with the budget Mythbuster. Crazy comp. Ninja loves him. Some 3-to-1 comps. Almost 50 million damage at 48.6. Crazy, crazy HP burn damage and everything from him. We've got Khatun coming in at 3.2 million. So again, she does not have War Master. I saw a version that Face Melter did of this team where she was in a toxic set and she did over 10 million damage. So do not write her off as a damage dealer. It's just the way that I have her built. She is not going to be putting up big numbers. So for Seeker, he's at 12.8. We've got Demytha at 4.4, and then Tatura just under 9 million, 8.9 million damage. So that's a pretty safe 1 key, even with RNG. I did run this against Magic, and it was still able to 1 key. I wasn't really sure about that with 2 Spirit Champions in here, but it didn't fall off enough for it to be a problem. Against Force, though, it is a pretty significant fall off. So Force is really hurt by not Ninja weak hitting on the HP burn, but instead Ninja weak hitting on decreased defense. So the decreased defense uptime, there was quite a few turns where I saw it fall off because he would have back-to-back weak hits, or it only has that 60% chance to apply, so it definitely hurt him a lot. And then Seeker lost almost 5 million damage being weak affinity as well. So I did try a few substitutes against Force Affinity just because I wanted to see how they would do. So Fane as a Force damage dealer, again, she's strong affinity against Force, so she was able to do 60.8, so not quite enough for a 1 key. So I was just trying to see if there was a substitute to run against Force that was going to keep it in 1 key range, and Fane and Anax were the 2 champions that I tried that with. Anax did a little bit more than Fane, about 5 million more. They were all in the same gear, so I took the same gear and moved them around the champions. They were all in attack banner, so I didn't have to worry about switching back and forth between them or anything. But the only thing I had to change was maybe their speed by a little bit, since the base speeds were different. But we did not get a 1 key. We got close with Anax against Force, but it's going to be a 2 key either way when you're running it with Force Affinity. I did also run this against Magic, but with Draco, and I was surprised to see that Draco did about 1 million damage less overall for the team compared to Ninja. So Ninja is doing more personal damage, but then Draco's bringing the weaken back into the team. That's the reason why Khatun and Seeker, Demytha, and Tatura are all doing more damage. But he himself, even with all the poisons, was not able to do that. So I did want to point out too, I did not put any toxic sets on when I was running it with Ninja because I wanted to have a fair comparison across the board. There's times throughout the fight that there's only like 2 or 3 debuffs on the bar. If you threw some toxic into here, this team itself, maybe on Tatura or Khatun, would potentially go into the 85, 90 million mark. So you got plenty of room for extra poison if you were to add it to this team. I don't think it's enough to cover the gap on Force Affinity, but it would be very close. All right, so one other thing I wanted to show you, this came from Face Melter, and this is a screenshot from his clan. So it's kind of neat because he's got 3 versions of the Mythbuster on the top 5 of the roster here. So the top one is the regular Mythbuster, but with Ninja instead of Turvold. So that one is the one that's doing the crazy damage, 172 million against Ultra Nightmare. The second one is his, but instead of Tatura, he brought in Riho as the block debuffs champion. And with her, she has the weaken covered on that one crazy ability that has all the debuffs on it. So with her, she's doing more damage than Tatura, and she's also providing the team weaken. So that team is able to push up to 105, which is really impressive. I think this is like a 4 million player power account too, so he's able to pull that off without crazy gear, which is great. And then with the Face Melter Junior account down here, so this is kind of neat because we took the block debuffs out completely, and he's running 2 damage dealers. So this only works on certain affinities. You don't want to run it against Spirit, for example, because you need that block debuffs. But if you have it set up to where, like Gentoro, for example, takes the stun, if he's your dedicated stun tank, it doesn't matter if he gets stunned. He just loses a turn. So you got to make sure that Khatun, Demytha, or Seeker are not your stun targets. As long as you have that covered, then your damage dealers, you can run 2 of those. You just got to, take into a little extra consideration protecting those 3, because if they take the stun, the entire tune falls apart. So keep that in mind. All right, guys, the last thing I wanted to show you is what this looks like in the calculator, specifically around the block debuffs and the block damage. So I've got all the speeds plugged in for the champions that I just showed you in my team, and it kind of falls into sync around turn count 3. So here is an example at the bottom of AoE, or turn count 1. This is where Demytha loses that block debuffs right here, where it starts to fade. So again, this is completely okay if she takes that decreased speed debuff like I showed you, because when it comes back around to her extension here, that's also going to be when she cleanses herself. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks worth after the clan boss goes of her having the decreased speed debuff, but then she cleanses herself and is able to stay where it needs to be. So once we hit turn count 3, it is fully in sync, and you're going to see that Demytha is always going last in the turn order. And the other thing you're going to see is starting with turn count 4, Tatura throws up his block debuffs, or whoever your 3-turn block debuffs champion is, and then it immediately gets extended. So then it bumps up to 3 turns, and then even with Seeker's double turn here, he still does not lose the block debuffs because it just got extended before his turns happen. So everybody has it, everybody's protected for AoE 2, and then Tatura's cooldown is available again here in turn 5 before the stun comes around. So that's kind of the reason why this works. You've got a little bit of wiggle in the speeds here, so if I was to, for example, speed up Khatun, you might think that it falls out of sync. That's just because her speed is related to Ninja. So she just has to be slower than Ninja. If you raise her a few speed points, then Ninja has to go up a few speed points as well. If you drop her down to 255, then he can go back down to 256, for example. So they're kind of nested in that same speed family. They just have to be him a little bit faster than her. So for Seeker, he's got a little bit of play, not too much, but like he can be 194, 193, 192, whatever. I think he can actually go down all the way to 190. Yeah. So I had him right in the middle of the range. And then for Tatura, you've got a little bit of play there as well. No big deal with his speeds. You just cannot go slower than I think 178. So that's kind of the way that the speeds work. If you substitute in another damage dealer, let's say for example Annex, his base speed is way lower. So when you plug him in, you're going to have to raise his speed a few points before it starts to fall back into sync. And that's just because of the base speed variation here. 90 is really slow for a champion. So just keep that in mind if you're running a different damage dealer. I had to do the same thing for Draco. So it seems like Ninja with his A1 turn meter fill can be just a little slower than the rest of the champions. So if you kick this over to Nightmare, you're going to see it looks mostly the same, but it syncs just a little bit slower. So turn count 4 is when Demytha starts going last, but the clan boss is not hitting hard enough to hurt anybody there, really. The important part here is that just the way that Demytha was on Ultra Nightmare, there's going to be 3 different champions that take the decreased speed debuff. That's completely okay as well. I've run this for the last 3 days on Nightmare as well as Brutal, and even with that decreased speed that happens in turn count 1, it does not matter. And then from turn count 4, you're going to see the same thing happening. Everything gets extended, and everybody is protected for AoE 2 and the stun starting here. So that works for Brutal as well. Just keep in mind, if you see all of these champions losing their block debuffs, that's okay. You don't need to change delays or anything like that. And then it just takes a little bit longer to sync up for the other difficulties because of how much faster your champions are in relation to the clan boss speed. All right, guys, that's going to be all for this one. I hope you enjoyed the Budget Mythbuster. And if you have the ability to put this together in your account, hopefully it can be your first 1 or 2 key Ultra Nightmare team if you don't have one already. So this was really fun one to build. Like the silver saving component was something unlike anything I'd ever done. To build a full 5 champion clan boss team and 3 alternate DPS and only use leftover gear and spend 4 million silver was definitely something I didn't think I was going to be able to do. So Face Melter, appreciate you putting this one together. You're always pushing the limits of what we can do in Clan Boss, and it is excellent. So until next time, I have been the Dragon's Beard, and thank you for watching.